Hello DIYers and welcome back for those of you that come and watch my videos regularly. Today I'd like to have a small talk about making springs. Whatever your reason may be, mine is making magazines. I have a 3D printer so I can 3D print magazines, but you still need to spring load the drum and to get it to spin and load your pellets as you cycle your gun. So I started by I had some what do you call it, spring wire, spring steel wire. I tried to bend that first on something, on some rod, not very successful. I made a tool to it look a little bit like a screwdriver, but it would have a set screw so you could hold the end of yours, the end of your wire, and then twist on a rod sticking out of the handle. With that I had some success, but still the springs didn't look very uniform and you had to tolerate quite a lot of waste. You see, it's somewhat consistent but not really ideal. And you see, this non-uniformity is because I tried to have as little waste as possible, and when these get very short, it's very difficult to hold them at a constant angle and get the windings to look even. And yeah, it's just not very optimal. And even finding the correct gauge for what you want to do, this is way too stiff for magazine. So you end up looking around your hardware shops to find what you can get, and most of the times 0.8 millimeters is the thinnest you will get there. You might try to straighten springs and you end up like this, and this is totally unusable, not constant bend in it. It's very difficult to make a spring out of this. A different spring out of it. You straighten it because the diameter, I have a box of springs. The diameter of these are not big enough to make the spring for the magazine. So what's the best option left? One thing I'd like to add: making large diameter springs with a very light load, i.e., large diameter springs with very thin diameter gauge wire in them, is actually quite challenging because you're not bending the steel very much, so it's hard to predict what's going to happen. It's even challenging if you have the equipment, but without the equipment is very difficult. So I started thinking, what's my next best bet? What are the largest diameter springs that you can get around the place which are fairly light? And this is what I came up with. This is one of those badge holders. It has a spring in it. It's going to be fairly large diameter to do this, and it turns quite a lot. So yeah, it might be a good bet. You get also in this kind of format this rewinding mouse wire. So you take them apart and you see something like this inside. It's a little bit like a watch spring, a clock spring, but much thicker. They work on the same principle. So this I've already bent a little bit, but they generally, when you take them out, they're much bigger and kind of difficult to fit into your drum. You'd also have to remake your drum to, instead of having little holes for the round wire, you'd have to have little slots so you can put the end of it and the beginning of it. You see that there's a bend. You can cut off the crooked side and just leave a little, just 90-degree bend and slot that in. Same on this side. But when it's very big, it's very difficult to get it in there. And it still requires quite a bit of attention to put it in there. So you need to bend them tighter. How to go about that? So this is the tool I made for that. is just a piece of wood with some holes in it. Well, you only technically need one. Nice hardened steel rod. This is I think 1/8 of an inch. It doesn't really matter because you're not going to be bending exactly around this diameter. What decides your bend radius is these nails that you drive in there. So what you're going to want to do is start with the tightest. It's easiest. So you put your, okay. So you put your spring in there, the smallest side first, and then with the same tools that you use for squeezing sieges out of their grooves. This is a good tool for this because it's the contact point where you hold is very thin, so you don't tend to stress the material and put an unwanted bend into it, especially if you're not holding it straight and an angle is going to put an awkward bend in it. The contact surface here is very small, so it does that as little as possible. Once you have the end in, what you're going to do is just slowly pull it around. Now it's very loose because I've already done this. I've even done it with little restrictors to further increase the bend. What you can do is either put little pieces of pipe in there, or whatever you have, little barrels, whatever you happen to have at home, or just make another set of holes and nails tighter. Anyway, and slowly pull it through. Actually, it's better to push it, because if you pull it, you're weakening the bend. So just when it comes out of the bending apparatus, it should be free. So you push it into it and slowly make it all the way around. Oops. While you're pushing it, you want to make sure that the spring is flat on the piece of wood, so you're not putting an unwanted bend in. Okay, we've reached the end, and then you would just back off a little bit, squeeze it, and just pull it out. So this probably needs another pass to be able to be used, but this is how you would reduce the bend radius of the spring inside those badge holders to be better suited for what you want in your application. In my case, making a PCP air rifle magazine. Okay, thanks for watching. If you like this kind of content, hit like. If you want to be notified when new videos come out, subscribe and hit the bell button. Goodbye, have a good one.